After that brief stop in Richmond, I was back on the Flinders Highway for the last 150 kilometres down to Julia Creek. Population about 550, 660 kilometres west of Townsville, 258 east of Mount Isa, 1630. I'd call it west-northwest of Brisbane. We did note three particular things on the way, and I'll talk about that later. There's a bit of art around Julia Creek. Julia Creek renowned for sunsets, and we caught a ripper. Makes the top two on the trip. Julia Creek, of course, home of the Dirt and Dust Festival, being held this year, 2025, from August 29 to August 31. We get another night in under the stars. The sunset, well, it was a wow. Got a bit of video here of it. A number of stills across the afternoon. Different edits, different directions, different times. Some people like some edits, some people like other edits. There's some HDR in there. But we were booked back at the caravan park before dinner. A local group comes every Monday night and puts on dinner with dessert, which is always dangerous. Never have dessert. It's not good for me. So dessert and a few stories around the fire. Not that that's my scene, but always like to support local charities, local groups. So interesting story came out of this. One of the things we noticed from Charters Towers to Julia Creek and further, to be honest, was the number of feral cats. I am a severe cat disliker, especially the feral ones. And the lady that spoke at the dinner at the Julia Creek Caravan Park was from the Visitor Information Centre. There is a Dunnart display or Dunnart feeding display every day in the Visitor Information Centre. Now, these things have become endangered. Feral cats, one of the reasons that they have become endangered. We didn't make the Dunnart feeding display or Dunnart feeding display. We've always got a bit on. The second and third thing we noticed as we rumbled from Richmond to Julia Creek, folks baling the Flinders grass into hay, into big round or big square bales, don't remember. And I did ask a quick question of the ladies serving dinner that night as to how the contractors go dealing with the stones. She said there's no stones and they're just baling the grass. Yeah, I understood that. But anyway, it leads into another story in McKinley, funnily enough, where I ran into a contractor as was part of that show. The third thing we noticed was a large field/paddock of something that had been planted. It was too far away to see leaf shape, but kind of guessed at wheat or oats. And again, the ladies serving dinner informed me that it was chickpeas. It certainly is a long way from what we would consider traditional broadacre agricultural areas. That's what they said it was. Looked to be a fair-sized paddock of it. 1,000, 2,000 acres, don't know, as far as the eye could see. In any case, Julia Creek is on the Great Artesian Basin. In the main street, there is a large wall of barbed wire netting. It was put together by a 19-year-old chap after the big floods of 2019 as a reminder of that particular time. He'd attended a Bent Not Broken tour which taught people about making wire sculptures. Came up with the idea of collecting some of that wire that had been ripped out and moved by the flowing water and turned it into this particular sculpture. There's a number of museums in Julia Creek. We visited 3, that might be all, don't know, but any museum that holds an old hearse is always going to appeal to my dark, macabre sense of humour. But some good stuff in these places if you're into old stuff. It is interesting that we do hold onto memories for whatever reason, and we fear the future for, again, whatever reason. I guess it's fearing what you don't understand. Some stuff in here that I've got in my shed, the old singer-sewing machine, a radio similar to the one I took away to boarding school with me back in the 70s. Some old wool shears, some crosscut saws, some old branding irons, lots of stuff in there. The main industries of Julia Creek: agriculture, mainly cattle, and mining. Julia Creek, named after the niece of one Donald McIntyre, who was the younger brother of Duncan McIntyre, an explorer, also the first white settler in the area. He settled on a property 70 kilometres north of the present town site way back in 1864, not too long after Burke and Wills passed through the area. There's a light show on the water tower every night. I know how long it goes. We went down and had a look, got some footage, went down the street. Some of the trees are lit up. Quite the place. Julia Creek, again, enjoyed our time there. However, it was hot, and my wife likes the hot. I like the cold. But it's interesting to see all our southern brothers and sisters on their great northern migration of 2025. We're right in the thick of it now, going against it, but right in the thick of it. Needing to purchase fly nets. Good business opportunity, that one there. I didn't think the flies were that bad. I sure wasn't going to put down $14 per fly net. Next, we were off to McKinley. We tossed up with heading up to the Cornby pub for a feed. Last time we were at the Cornby pub, it was desolate and been rebuilt, but we decided to cut that part of the triangle off and just head straight down to McKinley, kind of the home of Crocodile Dundee, as well as, is it the world's smallest library or Australia's smallest library? But it's small in any case. A night under the stars in Julia Creek, just out the back of the van park. First night under the stars of the trip, actually. Was too much light, again, but not from the moon this time, so we got a bit of definition in the Milky Way. Have to say the skies was pretty quiet regards meteors, satellites and planes, but not much like being under the stars. Here is the Spirit of the Light Horse, Julia Creek's tribute to the Anzacs, just right at the RSL. As with all places up here and out here, no lack of large road trains thundering around town. They go around town here, they don't go through town. Servicing both the cattle and mining industry with stuff moving between Townsville and Mount Isa. A little bit. This F250, relatively new, parked up beside us at the caravan park, actually from Tasmania. Note the National Heavy number plates. They bring about a whole new realm of what you can and can't do. But if you're going to exploit the extra carrying ability of these big American rigs, F250 2500s and above, you're going to need National Heavy registration, a truck licence, and then a logbook, and have to comply with all of those rules and regs.